Each year in the United States, thousands of major crimes go unsolved. When the case has gone cold and police have nowhere to turn, they seek assistance from the public. This is a program dedicated to solving these cases. This is Crime Stoppers Case Files.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us for another Northeast Ohio edition of Crime Stoppers Case Files. I'm Bob Frantz. There are over 1,400 Crime Stoppers organizations operating around the world. These organizations empower citizens like you to become directly and anonymously involved in fighting crime in our communities. We see the positive impact of this every day in Northeast Ohio as Crime Stoppers has become an important law enforcement tool, a proactive approach to removing dangerous criminals from the streets and making them safer for everyone. Each week on this television program, we'll share facts with you from unsolved cases, and you'll have the opportunity to submit information that may help investigators, possibly earning yourself a cash reward without ever having to give your name. Let's get to work. On December 22nd, 2009, 32-year-old Shawn Morrison was shot and killed walking to a store near East 115th and Superior Avenue. Here's the story.
Shawn, like his son, was very active. At 6 months, he started walking. By the time he was a year old, he had a mouthful of teeth.
Ron, as a brother, got into a lot of stuff. Me and him were like cut buddies. Anytime you seen him, you seen me.
I met Shawn through a friend back in 1996. From that point on, we just kind of clicked and got a relationship together and stayed together. As
we got older, we started to click more, and things he liked that I liked. We did basically the same things, always wearing the same places. We always talked about growing old together, having grandkids, a big family, cookouts, the big house, you know, just being together.
He liked music. He used to step out the house and go sit on the neighbor's porch because when Saturday, our neighbor would play music. And he'd be sitting on the porch just patting his feet. He liked to talk, he liked to laugh, he liked to joke around. He didn't meet anyone that he didn't get along with. He was very athletic, loved football, loved baseball, had a good arm. He could throw a ball like you wouldn't believe. Very outgoing, charismatic, enjoy people, people enjoyed him. He was loved by everyone. If you met him, you couldn't help but love him. If he was sad, he'd make you smile or laugh. He'd listen to you. He was fun, friendly, outgoing, couldn't sit still, always doing something. He had joined the Muslim religion. He used to preach to me and my daughter about it after his death. My daughter and I both have become Muslim. We feel closer to him, and I understand why he was a Muslim now. We had 2 kids together, and he never got a chance to see the baby boy. So he doesn't even know that he had a son, and that's something he really wanted. Not until his death did I remember when he was younger, making the statement, "You're growing up too fast, you're gonna die young."
EMS and fire, what is the location of your emergency?
We can't, on 115th and Superior, ma'am. The church on the corner, and next to the church there's a car wash.
Okay.
And the young lady, she came to my door because she don't have a phone. She said she was walking past. She seen a guy laying there bleeding from the head, but she heard a gunshot.
Are you with the patient now?
No, ma'am. I'm in my house. She went back there.
She know if the patient was conscious?
She said she heard a moan.
Was he breathing?
I don't know.
You don't know? That's fine.
No, ma'am.
And you think it was a gunshot?
I just heard a gunshot outside.
In the early morning hours of December the 22nd of 2009, Shawn Morrison was walking on Superior Avenue near the intersection of East 115th. We believe that his intention was to walk to a convenience store that was very close to his girlfriend's house. Our investigation showed that the store had closed already, so he was walking to another store that was a considerable distance away. We don't know exactly what the last moments of Shawn's life were like. We can surmise that he's confronted by 1 or 2 suspects. At least one of the suspects has a large caliber revolver. From the area where the shooting takes place, it's conjecture that he may have been trying to flee and as he does so, he is shot in the back of the head. His body was found at East 115th and Superior next to a storefront church. There is a narrow walkway that led along the side of the church. The church was on one side, a cyclone fence that surrounded the parking lot of a car wash adjacent to it was on the right-hand side. He was found about 6 feet north of the sidewalk along this walkway. He probably was either herded into that walkway because it was sheltered, concealed, and then he turns and tries to run. And as he does so, he is shot in the back of the head. We were able to locate witnesses who observed one of the suspects who appeared to be going through the pockets of Jerron's coat, which was stolen from him. He threw the coat on the ground, and they saw 1 or 2 males running from the area where the shot was.
I got a phone call. My mom was on the phone, a little hysterical. She said, I have to get to Huron Road immediately because I probably will not be seeing my brother anymore.
So immediately I get up and I leave out and I go up to Huron Hospital. I talked to a nurse. She just asked me a couple questions, told me that I could go in, that it wouldn't be easy, it wouldn't be good. And when I got into the room, they said he had 1 gunshot to the head. He had just a lot of blood everywhere.
I got in the hospital. I just broke down.
In the early morning hours of December 22nd, 2009, at East 115th and Superior, Jerron Morrison intended to walk to a neighborhood convenience store. He never made it there. He was robbed and then shot. He was taken to the hospital. He lingered for a while and then expired. We were able to locate witnesses who observed one of the suspects who appeared to be going through the pockets of Jerron's coat, which was stolen from him. He threw the coat on the ground. Later, that coat was found by a person who happened to be walking by. They collected the coat up and were going to keep it for themselves, but then they sold it to another individual, and that's where our trail goes cold. We have a general idea of who has the coat now, but we do not have it in our possession, and we would like to retrieve that coat because there is a potential that there would be biological evidence that could lead us to a positive identification of a suspect in this crime. The suspect description is very vague, 1 or 2 younger black males. We believe there was another witness that was closer to the incident when it happens. Their identity we do not know, and we would like them to come forward and tell us what they saw.
It's lonely. Because, you know, usually you can pick up the phone, call him, or go see him, or hook up and go out to eat. Just kick it with him. And he's not there for that anymore.
I miss my brother a lot. We bounced off of each other. I would come to him with stuff, he would come to me with stuff. I have nobody right now that I could do that with or share that with.
When my grandson was born, it should have been a happy occasion. But I really couldn't get happy as I should have been because I knew my son would never get to see his son.
They took his life for nothing, so that would help to know that he's not still out on the street and able to do it to someone else.
I need closure. And whoever did this, I want them to pay because they had no right to do that to him. He never bothered anybody.
I would love to see justice done. If you know something, definitely call. If this was your family, if this happened to you, you will want someone on your behalf to stand up for you because you can't stand up for yourself anymore.
We are seeking any information that anyone might have in connection with the murder of Jerron Morrison.
In the case of Jerron Morrison, police believe there were witnesses. They're looking for 1 or 2 younger black males. If you know anything about this case, please call Crime Stoppers. The reward for this case is up to $2,000. We'll be right back with more when we return to Crime Stoppers Case Files. On September 12th, 2005, Eligio Matthew Galarza was shot during a street brawl near West 98th and Denison Avenue. Here's the story.
It was kind of crazy because I was a single child for 8 years, so him coming in, it was kind of like, oh, I'm not the, I wasn't spoiled anymore, and my mom, she wanted a boy so bad, and when she got him, she was like so happy.
I bring to the school every morning, to kindergarten, to 4th grade, until 6th grade, I think, and he's very good. He's very smart. He knows Mrs. School Day. All teachers, the principal, Mrs. Sales, tell me, oh, you have a good son, quiet boy. He put attention, and he bring home only straight A's.
Matt, he was a really caring person. He was a jokester. He would tell you all these jokes.
I was 6 when my Uncle Matt died. He was funny, nice. We wrestled with each other, had fun. Sometimes we watched TV.
He was quiet. I mean, he really didn't say too much, and unless something bothered him, he would say something, but he was really a quiet, humble person.
He have good heart. He tell me, Mama, I have clothes, shoes. I give to my neighbor. The fathers can't force the money to buy good stuff, a brand name stuff. And he give to the neighbor, to his friend, shoes, tennis shoes, clothes. He had very good heart.
We had a big age difference. We're 8 years apart. So he used to always, tag along with me. And then I met my husband when I was real young, when I was like 15. So when he used to tag along, he was real little. And like my husband never had a brother. So like my brother was like his brother. So he used to always look up to him. And we go to the movies or skating, he would go with us.
When I am young, I ask to God for my son and my daughter. And thank God he gave me. But now I lose my son.
September 12th of 2005, we responded to the area of West 98th and Denison for a gunshot that was fired on the streets, and we found our victim, Elijah Matthew Galarza, dead on the front lawn of the house. Talking to people on the scene, we had learned that there was an earlier altercation between two families. One family lived across the street and the other one on the other side. Some type of allegation was made, and two of the family members met each other in the middle of the street. There was a little pushing and shoving going on, and one of the elder family members came out, broke up the fight, and each member went back to their house. The police were called for this incident, and they did respond. Both of the parties were talked to, and they were advised where they needed to go to file complaint against the family members. At this time, it was settled. However, tempers were still boiling. People were still upset about what happened, and some phone calls were starting to be made to friends and other family members. About an hour to 2 hours later, different family members and friends of both families started to arrive on the street. Witnesses report that there were in excess of 20, 30, even 40 people on both sides of the street. There was some talking back and forth between the groups, and apparently something was said that escalated. Two of the groups began to start to walk towards each other, and just as they were reaching the street, there was gunfire. When the gunfire stopped, our victim, Elijah Galarza, was found on the front lawn in front of the house. He had suffered a single gunshot wound to the back of the head. We do know from witnesses that there were in excess of 20 to 30 gunshots fired, and the evidence on the scene also indicate that the gunfire was coming from both sides of the street.
He was actually dead on arrival, so he was alive when the ambulance came, but on his way to the hospital, he passed away. My husband was calling me, and I was like, what's going on? And then he's like, you need to come home, something's wrong with your brother. I'm like, well, what happened? And then he was like, Matt's gone. And I said, what do you mean he's gone? I was like, he's been shot in the head. And I was like, what do you mean he's gone?
On September 12th, 2005, Matthew Galarza, who was 18 years old, was found shot and killed on the front lawn on West 98th Street, just south of Denison. Talking to people on the scene, we had learned that there was an earlier altercation between two families, and some phone calls were starting to be made to friends and other family members. About an hour to 2 hours later, different family members and friends of both families started to arrive on the street, and apparently something was said that escalated. Two of the groups began to start to walk towards each other, and just as they were reaching the street, there was gunfire. When the gunfire stopped, our victim, Elijah Galarza, was found on the front lawn in front of the house. A lot of people took off running. They went running through backyards, jumping fences. We've talked to people on the next streets that report 10, 15 people running through backyards. We are not sure where that gunshot came from. Could have come from his friends or the people behind him. or when the gunfire started, he took off running, and it could have come from across the street. We arrived on scene. We talked to everybody on the street that was there. They report there was gunshots, but nobody could tell us who had a gun in their hand. We found evidence on the scene that there were at least 2 types of weapon used, and both weapons were automatics. We towed multiple cars from the area. We got search warrants looking for weapons, and we couldn't find anything. And we still have not been able to determine who actually had a gun and who was firing that night. Witnesses report our description as black males, ages 18 to 30, and this was in 2005. So they'd be in their mid-20s to mid-30s. People across the street were described as Hispanic males and some white males. What we're looking for is for someone to come forward and tell us who actually was doing the shooting.
For one bad person cut his life to my son is not fair, because he's young, he can't go to school no more, he no have fun, he no enjoy the life, because somebody killed for nothing, with no reason.
Him being gone, it's really affected us a lot, because obviously when I see his room or other people talk about their brother, it's it's really sad, because I don't have one anymore. It is something so senseless that was over something that wasn't even about him.
I'm a happy lady, but after somebody killed him, I'm not happy no more. I cry for my son every day. I go in bed, depression from my son die.
I would love someone to just come and then, think about if it's your brother or sister, how would you feel if someone, murdered them and they're walking the streets? I just hope they have in their heart, if they know something, to come forward. And it's not about just getting revenge, it's just, having justice for what happened to them.
If they caught the guy who killed my uncle, it would make my mom and grandma happier.
When I find out who killed him, I think I feel better, because he got to pay for what he make.
We would like to solve this case, not only to give some closure to the family, but somebody's out there that got away with murder, and we can't have murderers walking the streets. So any help that anybody would give us to identify the person responsible would be greatly appreciated, and that's what we need in this.
Police are trying to determine which member of one of the brawling groups fired the shot that killed him. A lot of people were there. If you know anything about this case, you can earn up to $10,000 from Crime Stoppers without ever giving your name. Thank you for joining us for another edition of Crime Stoppers Case Files, where you are empowered to help clean up the streets. Remember, our towns and our neighborhoods are a direct reflection of what we allow them to be. So let's all do our part to make them safe. We'll see you next time for another edition of Crime Stoppers Case Files.